thanks for taking the time tonight. And I just want to dive into it because we've got a really full agenda. We've recently released these new features in addition to our standard cloud billing with Autotask and Connectwise. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to reach out to really the broader market and all those MSPs beyond Autotask and Connectwise and try and get them all connected into the marketplace. And so we've been able to create what I would call a flexible system that'll accommodate many third-party applications, ERP applications, etc. So the whole intent of the exercise to get us from an Ingram invoice and MSP invoice. The MSP, of course, is being billed and invoiced, and their question is, how do I deal with the administrative issues and the cash issues associated with that invoice on the left? And the quicker you can get on the invoice on the right is the happier the MSP is really going to be. So what I wanted to cover tonight was just really the MSP use cases for the product, the features of the software, just how flexible it is in terms of addressing third-party systems, some of the qualities of a qualified prospect, and then really to understand the onboarding process, since this is a little bit different than the Autotask and Connectwise approach, which are all, of course, pre-configured. So if you take a look at what's going on, if you're familiar with our other connectors, Connectwise and Autotask, what we did was we looked at all the features in those systems. Most of them we liked, except it limited us, of course, to Connectwise and Autotask, right? So we just use the same API that we use for those. We get the same data, and now we take that data and we push it out into a file for batch import, which many third-party systems are ready to and willing to support as long as you conform to their requirements and their specifications. Right? And I'll come back to this issue, but that is the gating factor in terms of, what third-party systems can use it? Well, first question is, can you will you allow import of file into your invoicing system? If the answer is yes, then all we have to do is figure out how the mapping works, right? We'll go into this a little bit more later on. But here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to automate the import of the billing. Many PSA ERP systems allow for that, right? And so we're really trying to focus on these issues of easy, efficient, timely, accurate. And I would go even further and say hands-off. If you take a look at this slide, we're getting our data from the Ingram marketplace, just like we always did for Connectwise and Autotask. So in that case, we're just taking that data, we're taking it, we're extracting it, selecting it, modifying it, transforming it, parsing it. There's about 15 different operations you got to do. And then we just push it out into Connectwise and push it directly into those records, the agreements or the contracts associated with those. In the case of third-party systems, you can't, there's hundreds of them out there, right? So the question is, so what we're trying to do is what we call an invoice-ready data package. Meaning, while we put it into Excel, ideally, we don't want you to touch once you get the data, we don't want you to touch the insides of it, right? We don't want you to have to do math in there. We don't want you to have to enter any keyboard data. We don't want you to do anything because that is where you then start to introduce errors, right? We don't want you to create macros for all that stuff should all be taken. And that's why we say this ought to be what we think of as hands-free. From the point in time you've done the extraction, we've done the transformation, you ought to be able to just your invoicing system at that file, and it ought to bring it in seamlessly. All right. So these are slides that you've seen in the past. Like I say, this is Ingram Marketplace, IDSync in the middle, and then it's pushing down into PSA contracts. There's no the feature set, the reporting, the notifications, all those kinds of features that we've come to know and love inside of the traditional product still apply to this. So they still get reports, they still have notifications, right? So it's and it's a very simple process of, in the old case, we were mapping, a marketplace company to, say, a PSA company, the subscription to an agreement. And now, instead of doing this mapping, all you're doing is really doing the selection. What is the data that you want to show up in your export file? Like I say, all the notifications are the same. This next screen is really the key and the heart of how do we address, all those systems. And the answer to that question is, well, we create templates that once you put the template in place, it knows how to filter, sort, select, parse, compute, calculate, all those kinds of things that you might traditionally do in your spreadsheet off to the side. These fields, just to explain, these fields down the left side are fields that come right out of the Ingram marketplace. And these fields on the right side are how you want your template to look, right? And then if you need custom fields, you can add custom fields, because a lot of times, typically, you can't just go from an export to an import and think it'll work, because there are things like static values. There are the sequence of these things are important, of these fields are important. There may be computations that you have to make. You might want to layer taxes in them. So there's any number of things that you might have to do. And what you're really looking to do is you're looking to standardize a regular recurring process. So all they have to do is come over, pick the template, and press the go button, and pretty much from there on out, it's largely a hands-off operation, right? Now I'll show you because we're going to use this template to and we'll use this later on to actually create what I would call kind of a custom template on file. So not only is it easy to get the data into the third-party system, it's also easy to build custom templates. So this just is kind of a different view of that conversation, right? Of working from what I would call the purchasing database that exists in the marketplace, taking it through these various, these various operations that need to happen to it to tailor it so that you can create what I would call an invoice-ready data package. And that really is our objective here, is right, how do you get to a hands-free import experience without the back office staff having to do anything further with that data? So in this case, so these are the two. There are two systems right now that we have tested, and we have very high confidence in, that if you get an Excel, an Excel spreadsheet and you just press the go button, then mostly you're going to, for QuickBooks Pro 2016 or QuickBooks Enterprise, that data is just going to come. Also true of Xero. So I just want to stop at the moment. John Reed has joined us and is going to do a short demo for us.
I'm going to start off before we jump into the demo with something you are all familiar with, and that is an Ingram invoice. And you can see the line items here with the product, the quantity, the pricing, and that is, in a nutshell, what we're doing. This information is available via the Ingram API, and so having access to that API, we're able to get those individual line items down into the export file, which you can then import and transform into an invoice. That's what we're doing. So keep that invoice in mind. And we're logged in already. We have the menu on the left. We'll click on export. I'll just make it real quick here, and we'll select all the available customers. I've got Xero selected as the template, and I'll pick a date on here of August the 1st, because I know I'll have data for that. I'll click on export, And it has now generated my CSV file. Here's the file here. I'll just transform it into a table real quick to make it a little bit easier to see. Again, different columns in here have different information: contact name, contact information, invoice date, invoice numbers. You know, we got products, we got quantities, we got unit amounts. And so now we've got the file. I'll jump over here to Xero. Again, already logged in, so I'll go to their invoicing section. Now we're to the invoices section of Xero. I'm going to click on import. And this is their import screen where you select the file. And there's the file that we just generated this evening. And now I'll click the import button. Comes back and says I'm going to have 3 new invoices, no errors. I click complete. And here's my invoices. And so I can click on one of those to open it up. I can look at preview here. And there's the preview of the invoice. So that's how simple and easy it is to get data from Ingram to a file, import it into the accounting system, being Xero in this case, and have an invoice ready to go out.
And this is our experience with whether you're talking about QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Enterprise. It's just as fast as he did it here and as simple as it went, right? As this hands-off experience, it goes just as fast.
Okay, do we want to jump ahead to some of the secret stuff you mentioned, Marty?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Okay, one of the things that Marty talked about was templates. So being able to build the template that matches the requirements of your accounting system. So we'll just click add here. We'll call this demo 1. And as he mentioned, down here are the data fields available from Ingram. And I can just push those over to the right side, which will become the template. And we'll stop here after a couple, but I'll do description, quantity, unit amount. Okay, that should be a minimum number. And then I'll save it. So now we have a template created. I'll come back over here. I'll pick demo 1, do the same thing, and change the date. Back again, just like I did before, August the 1st. Click export. And wait for it to open here. And just like before, you know, you can even see here that we got companies, we got invoice numbers, we got descriptions, quantities, and amounts. And that's what I told it to put into this file based on the template we just built. So it's really that simple and easy to construct the template that you need and to match what is the requirements of the accounting system that you need to get the data into to generate invoices.
And then this template can be saved. It can be reused next week. It can be, you know, so again, think standardized, recurring, regular process, right? And once you get the template, then it's mostly kind of, like I say, it's kind of point and go, right? Now, even within something like Xero or QuickBooks Online, there's a number of options that those invoicing systems allow that you might want to accommodate in terms of extra fields of information that you want to show up on the invoice, etc. So even though we have a standardized invoice for Xero, right? It's like your Xero MSP may say, oh, you know what? I do it a little bit different. Here's how I do it. And so what you'll see that we have an ability to, you know, accommodate what I would call most reasonable requests. including the ability to add customized fields to this, to add calculated fields, etc. Right? So maybe you want to show them some of the overrides, John, and show them how to tailor it a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the Ingram data may not be exactly sufficient as it comes from Ingram. So there might be some things that you want to modify about that data before you put it into the file for invoice generation. So we have what we call overrides, and we have two of them. This one is by account. So if I select an account, I then select the product, and I get a list here of subscriptions, and then I can pick the resource within that subscription. It's going to automatically give me some things. It gives me the cost. It gives me the MSRP. I do need to give it a product ID, and we have a description here, but I can, again, override. This is one of the things that you might want to do. I might want to override the description that's coming from Ingram to something that means something more to me and more to my customers. I can put in a tax type which would match up with something in my accounting system to generate the sales tax for me, and the sales price. Again, I can override the sales price and save it, and now I have an override for this account that will always be there. That'll be in place on any export for this account, for this product. It will apply these overrides. And again, just like I have that override I can build for that account, I can have overrides that apply to all accounts. So again, same thing. I can change the description, set the tax type, and change the sales price, which will always be there and will apply globally then to every account if there's not an individual override on an account basis.
Can you show them a calculated field?
Yeah, let's go back to templates, and we're on demo 1. So again, we can add a couple things. Like here, again, most import systems, they require that things not only, they may have a requirement on the name of the field. So I can change the name of a field. I can add a custom field, and when I look at that, I can give it any name I want.
This is really important to trying to import into third-party systems. A lot of times they're not going to take the field values that are the field names that are just, they're very specific. It's like we don't want a customer name, we want an account name, right? And they're very specific in terms of how they want that field identifier to be. Same thing for sequence, left to right, across. So as you go from system to system, all those specifications are key issues in terms of what I would call hands-free import, right? And so we're trying to accommodate all those issues here.
So yeah, on this one, we've got a calculated field. I'm titling totals, and I'm going to multiply the adjustment amount times the unit amount so that it will compute. I mean, Xero does that for us on their import, but another system may not. You may need to provide it. So we can actually build the formula right in here and save it. And now I have a custom field in there defined to apply a mathematical formula.
One of the key pieces inside the Easy Invoicing dashboard is the Ingram Marketplace subscriptions. This is a report that shows you a snapshot of everything that is sitting currently up in the Ingram Marketplace that you have ordered. It gives you the company name, the subscription name, resource name, the license count, the part number, the subscription start date, expiration date, unit cost, MSRP, unit sales price, the total revenue for the item, and the margin. This report, again, it's a snapshot of the marketplace. It's very important. It's very easy to use. Not everyone has access to the marketplace, but yet through this report, they can easily and quickly see everything that is up in the marketplace and see the license counts. This report has many uses because it does show the license counts per resource. It can be used to confirm billing when you can compare the invoices that you're generating to the data from this report to ensure that you are in fact invoicing customers for the full quantity of licenses that they have on order. Within this report, again, it shows the expiration date of the contract, so it's something that can be used as a tool to plan ahead for letting your customers know when an item is going to be expiring and to make plans for renewing that subscription. Like most reports on the web, columns are sortable just by clicking on the columns, so you can get any of the columns in order that you would like. You can filter it. Down here on the left we have a pie chart. You can click on a pie element to filter the report. You can click on a company name to filter the report by that company. You can then, under Actions, also click on Actions and export to CSV, and it will then export whatever the data set that is showing in the report out to a CSV that you can then manipulate or import into some other program.
The other thing I want to emphasize is, what I would call the quick start services. Almost invariably, as simple as the system is to use, right? They get it wrong for a variety of reasons, and so these quick start services are very modestly priced, and we just find the customer satisfaction just goes up dramatically, and it takes, from a deployment perspective. Well, we want to do the same thing with this we did with the Connectwise and the Autotask. We want to work with them and make sure that they're oriented to the software. We want to do at least a couple of sample accounts, make sure they have a pattern that they can follow, right? And then we want to see them do the test. At that point in time, then we go, okay, you're trained, you know how to do this, open up a ticket if you have any problems, right? But we're looking for what I would call a fast start and precise execution, right? We do not want them to try and get through their own learning curve or do it. We think a scheduled event, this takes, 2, maybe 3 desktop sharing sessions, certainly not more, and they should be up and running. So it's easy to turn something like this into a project. Should not be, right? And because it's invoicing, we think there's too much money involved to be, how do I say, doing target practice and learning the software on the fly. We just want to help them get it correct first time through. So, if they were looking to budget, getting started, maybe in total it should be 3 or 4 hours. It's certainly not more than that, of learning the operation, doing the initial mapping, and then they're off to the races. And then typically on the monthly operations, they're going in, reviewing their reports, and doing that download, they're done. So there are some common questions, and we're coming up on the hour, but we get a lot of current, sometimes people say, how often is the data updated? And the answer is anywhere from 15 minutes to 4 hours, somewhere in that window. So if you said how on average, if you use the word on average, you might say on average it's about every 2 hours. Depends on where you where you came into the queue. How much effort does it take to get started? It's 2 or 3 desktop sharing sessions. That's all it is. How do you do proration? Well, the default is just like Ingram does it, right? We prorate. We prorate on the first month, and we don't prorate on the last month. But we do, as you saw, John, we do have the option to prorate on both the first and the last month. So how do you know if you've billed everybody? Well, we have reports that help you understand what you should be doing. How can I predict when the Ingram invoice will arrive? Well, we have an invoice calendar for you to look at so that you can plan your back office time and plan the cash that you need, right? Can I change prices, product descriptions? Yes, you can do it at individual level. You can do it at account level.